Welcome to Silent Queen's Reckoning. I'm so glad you could join us today. Now let's dive right into the story.
Chapter 1. The first thing Elena Whitmore saw when she came home early was not the champagne on the kitchen island.it. Was the red silk robe hanging from the door of her bedroom. Her robe was ivory. Her suitcase was still in the hall. Her husband was at the top of the stairs, barefoot, shirt half-buttoned, looking at her as if she had walked into the wrong house. Behind him, a blonde woman stepped out of the master bedroom wearing Elena's diamond earrings. For 3 seconds, no one spoke. The house was too beautiful for the silence inside it. The Whitmore estate sat behind black iron gates in Greenwich, all limestone walls, tall windows, clipped hedges, and quiet old trees. Every magazine that had photographed it called it a monument to Adrian Whitmore's success. They never mentioned Elena. They rarely mentioned wives unless the wives made noise. Elena had never made noise. She stood in the marble foyer in a camel coat and black travel dress, one hand still on the handle of her suitcase. Her dark hair had loosened from the low knot at her neck after a long flight from Zurich. Her face was pale from exhaustion, but her eyes were steady. Adrian gripped the staircase rail. "You're back early," he said. "Not I missed you. Not are you all right. Not what happened to your conference. You're back early." The woman behind him gave a soft laugh, then seemed to realize laughing was too obvious. She lifted one manicured hand to touch the earrings. Elena recognized the motion. Women always touched stolen jewelry when they wanted the owner to notice. The woman's name was Sienna Val, 28, lifestyle investor, former model, recently hired as a brand consultant for Adrian's luxury property group. She was famous online for soft focus videos about feminine energy and expensive silence. Though in person she looked entirely capable of being very loud when the right man paid for it. Elena looked at the earrings again. They had belonged to her mother. Adrian followed her gaze and his mouth tightened. "This is not what it looks like," he said. Sienna smiled. "It looks like your wife has excellent taste," she said, her voice honeyed and careless. Adrian turned slightly. "Sienna." It was not a warning.it, was a plea to behave until he could manage the room. Elena set her suitcase upright. The small sound of the wheels locking against marble seemed to echo through the entire house. "How long?" she asked. Adrian came down 3 steps, then stopped. He had the tall, polished look of a man used to being obeyed before he finished speaking. At 43, he was handsome in the way wealth preserves some men and ruins others. His hair was dark, his watch cost more than most people's cars, and his expression carried the faint irritation of someone whose mistake had become inconvenient. "Alana, you are tired," he said. "Let's not turn this into a scene." She looked at the red robe. "You put her in our bedroom. We need to talk privately. Apparently you already did." Sienna crossed her arms, leaning against the bedroom doorframe as if the house had invited her. "Adrian said you would be in Switzerland until Friday." Alana turned her eyes to her. Sienna's confidence faltered for a fraction of a second. There was something unnerving about being looked at by a woman who did not rush to compete. "I was," Elena said. Then the signing ended early. Adrian's expression shifted. "What signing?" For a moment, Elena almost laughed. After 9 years of marriage, her husband still did not ask what she actually did when she traveled. He preferred the version where she attended charity boards, quiet retreats, and private family obligations. It was easier for his ego if her life remained decorative. "Nothing you cared to understand," she said. His face hardened. "Don't take that tone." Sienna straightened, perhaps encouraged by the old husbandly command. "Maybe we should all calm down," she said. "These things are complicated. Adults can have honest arrangements." Elena's eyes returned to the earrings. Adults can also avoid wearing another woman's dead mother's diamonds. Sienna's hand dropped. Color rose in her cheeks. Adrian stepped down to the foyer. "Enough," he said. "Sienna, go upstairs." Sienna's mouth opened, offended, but she obeyed. Before she disappeared into the bedroom, She glanced at Elena with a small, smug look that said she had already won the part that mattered. Elena watched the bedroom door close. Then she looked at Adrian. You let her sleep there. I made a mistake. A mistake is one late call, one lie, one hotel receipt. This is a wardrobe hanging on my door. Adrian ran a hand through his hair. I have been under pressure. The Morgan Harbor acquisition, the investor tour, the board constantly demanding growth. You have been gone half the month. So you filled my side of the bed. Don't make it sound vulgar. Elena looked around the foyer. The chandelier above them was Venetian glass. The antique console table had been shipped from Milan. The painting near the stairs had been bought in her name because Adrian's liquidity was tight that quarter, and he had never asked where the funds came from. He had spent years calling the house his masterpiece. She had spent years quietly paying for the cracks beneath it. What do you want, Adrian? He exhaled. There it was. Relief. Small but visible. Men like Adrian loved when betrayal could become a negotiation. I don't know yet, he said. I care about you. You know that. No, Elena said. I know you care about appearances. His eyes narrowed. That is unfair. Is it? He lowered his voice. Sienna understands the world I'm in now. The dinners, the openings, the press. She brings energy into rooms. You avoid them. I avoid being displayed. You avoid partnership. Elena looked at him for a long moment. 9 years earlier, Adrian had proposed in a rented beach cottage during a storm, with no cameras, no investors, and no speech about energy. He had been ambitious then, but not cruel. Hungry, but grateful. He had kissed her wet hair and promised that if he ever became arrogant, she should remind him of the man who couldn't afford a proper ring. She had reminded him. He had called it nagging. The final sadness was not that he had changed. It was that he believed she had stayed the same, small enough to be handled. Elena picked up the suitcase. Adrian blinked. Where are you going? Out. With one suitcase? It is enough. He gave a cold laugh, recovering his arrogance now that she was leaving instead of screaming. Don't be dramatic. Where will you go at this hour? A hotel? Yes. For how long? Elena walked toward the door. Until this house learns who owns it. Adrian stared at her. She opened the front door. Cold air moved into the foyer. Upstairs, the bedroom door cracked open. Sienna watched through the gap, earrings glittering. Elena did not look back. Ask your lawyer tomorrow, she said. Then she walked out with one suitcase, leaving behind the husband who thought he had replaced her, and the mistress who had mistaken another woman's silence for permission. Chapter 2. Adrian did not panic that night. Not at first. He was angry. That was easier. He stood in the foyer after the door closed, looking at the place where Elena had been, and told himself she would come back by morning. Quiet women always returned once silence stopped feeling powerful. She would spend one night in a luxury hotel, realize pride was uncomfortable, and call him before breakfast. Sienna came downstairs 20 minutes later in a cashmere sweater she had found in Elena's dressing room. Elena's sweater. Adrian noticed, then decided not to. Is she gone? Sienna asked. For now. Sienna walked to the bar cart and poured herself a drink, as if she had not just helped detonate a marriage. You should let her cool off. Women like her need time to process. Adrian poured whiskey into a glass and drank half of it too quickly. You don't know her. I know enough. She looked like she wanted to slap me and chose to be noble instead. That type always wants witnesses to their suffering. Adrian looked toward the door. Elena is not performative. Sienna's smile thinned. Then why did she mention lawyers? That irritated him because he had no answer. He walked into his study and called Elena. The phone rang until voicemail. He called again, no answer. On the third call, it went straight to voicemail. Sienna leaned against the study door. She blocked you? She turned off her phone. Same message. Adrian glared at her. Sienna lifted both hands. Don't look at me like that. You said the marriage was dead. I said it was complicated. You said she was emotionally absent. She is. Then why do you care if she leaves? Adrian opened his mouth, then closed it. Because Elena knew where everything was. That was the first honest thought. Not because he loved her. Not because he had hurt her. Because Elena knew the passwords, the donor lists, the household accounts, the old banking relationships, the family office introductions, the names of people Adrian had offended, and the names of people who still took calls, because Elena asked politely. For years, she had been the quiet part of his success. Quiet enough that he had forgotten it was work. She won't leave, he said. Sienna crossed the study and sat on the edge of his desk. Good, because the Morgan Harbor dinner is tomorrow. We need to look stable. Adrian looked at her. He had enjoyed that word when it sounded like desire. It sounded different now, pressed against his balance sheet. You are not coming to that dinner, he said. Sienna's face changed. Excuse me? Not tomorrow. Adrian, they already know about us. They suspect. Half the city saw me at the Waldorf opening with you. And my wife just walked out of our house. Because she came home early, Sienna snapped. Not because I did anything wrong. Adrian stared. Sienna realized too late what she had said. He turned away first. Go upstairs. Her eyes flashed, but she went T1 in the morning. Adrian checked the tracking app connected to Elena's car. The car was in the garage. He checked the credit card accounts. No hotel charge. He checked the private driver. LOG. No booking. He called the gatehouse. Mrs. Whitmore ordered a car service, the guard said. Which one? I don't know, sir. It was not through the estate. Adrian hung up. His irritation sharpened into unease. Elena had left without using anything he controlled. At 2:30. An email arrived from the household manager. Subject: Resignation. Adrian opened it. Dear Mr. Whitmore, per Mrs. Whitmore's instruction, I am submitting notice effective immediately. The domestic staff have been paid through the end of the quarter from Mrs. Whitmore's personal account. We have been advised not to enter the property until ownership instructions are clarified. Ownership instructions. Adrian read the phrase twice. Then a second email arrived. This one was from Whitmore Properties Legal Department. Urgent. I need signature authority confirmation for estate trust assets. He called his general counsel, Marcus Reed, immediately. Marcus answered with a voice thick from sleep. Adrian? Why is legal emailing me about estate trust assets? There was a pause. At 2 a.m, read your email. Adrian heard movement, a lamp clicking on, keys tapping, then Marcus went silent. Marcus. I'm looking. And? The Greenwich estate is not held by you personally. Adrian's fingers tightened around the phone. I know that. It is in a trust for tax reasons. Yes, the Bellwether Residential Trust. And? You're not the controlling trustee. Adrian stared at the dark window. What are you talking about? Marcus's voice changed. It became careful. Elena is. For a moment, Adrian heard only the hum of the study lights. That is impossible. The deed was transferred 5 years ago during refinancing. You signed the restructuring packet. I signed hundreds of documents. Apparently this one mattered. Adrian's mouth went dry. Are you telling me my wife owns my house? Marcus hesitated. I am telling you she controls the trust that owns the house. From upstairs, faint laughter drifted down. Sienna on the phone, probably telling someone a version of the night where she sounded victorious. Adrian looked toward the staircase. For the first time since Elena had walked out, he felt something colder than anger. He felt the floor move. Chapter 3. Elena spent the night at the Harrington, but not in a room booked under Whitmore. She used her own name, Elena Marlowe. The hotel manager greeted her at the private entrance without surprise. He had known her since before Adrian knew how to pronounce half the wine labels he now collected. He took her suitcase himself despite the assistant reaching for it. Madam, he said softly, the Lancaster suite is ready. Thank you, Thomas. Will anyone be joining you? Alana looked at the rain sliding down the black awning. No. Thomas gave no reaction. The best staff in the world knew when silence was part of the service. The Lancaster suite occupied the top corner of the hotel, with tall windows overlooking the city, and a sitting room done in warm cream and green. Elena left the suitcase by the bed, and removed her coat slowly. Only then did her hands begin to shake. She sat on the edge of the mattress and let the tremor pass through her fingers. Not from weakness, from delayed impact. She had imagined this moment before. Not the robe, not the earrings, not Sienna's smug mouth in the doorway. But the discovery, the proof, the last small cruelty that would make denial impossible. Still, imagination was cleaner than reality. Reality had a smell. Champagne, jasmine perfume, Adrian's cologne, another woman wearing her mother's diamonds. Elena pressed one hand to her chest and breathed until the pain became shape instead of fog. Then she opened her suitcase. Inside were 3 dresses, 2 pairs of shoes, a folder from Zurich, and a small velvet box. The box did not contain jewelry. .at contained a flash drive. Elena placed it on the desk. .at7 in the morning. Her attorney arrived. Julian Cross was 62, lean, silver-haired, and dressed in a charcoal suit that made no argument for itself because it had never needed to. He had represented Elena's family for 20 years and frightened louder men by asking very simple questions. He entered the suite carrying coffee and a leather folio. "You slept poorly," he said. "Good morning to you too. I prefer accuracy before comfort." Then yes. I slept poorly. Julian set the coffee down. Was she there? In my bedroom, wearing my mother's earrings. His expression did not change, but his eyes hardened. That will be useful. Elena almost smiled. You make betrayal sound like evidence. Often it is. She handed him the flash drive. The house cameras? Foyer, stairwell, exterior hall, garage, wine room. Not the bedroom. Good. We need humiliation, not voyeurism. Elena looked at him. You enjoy this too much. No. I enjoy preparation. Revenge is messy. Preparation is clean. He opened the folio and laid out documents in neat stacks. Unquote. The Bellwether Residential Trust is secure. Adrian has occupancy privileges as your spouse, not ownership control. Those privileges can be suspended for misuse of the property, unauthorized residency, and reputational risk. How soon? Today, if you sign. Alana picked up the pen. Her hand was steady now. Julian slid another document forward. Whitmore Properties is more complex. You hold 38% through Marlowe Holdings. Adrian holds 29% directly, plus options tied to performance triggers. His board thinks he is the dominant economic owner because your shares are masked through 3 entities. He thinks so too. That is why he is careless. Alana signed. Julian continued. The Morgan Harbor acquisition requires financing from Northbridge Private Credit. Northbridge has asked us whether Marlowe Holdings remains comfortable supporting the debt package. Alana looked out at the morning city. Morgan Harbor was Adrian's obsession, a waterfront redevelopment deal in Boston, 4 towers, a marina, luxury retail, and a hotel that would put his name into a different tier of wealth. Without it, Whitmore Properties was impressive. With it, he believed he would become untouchable. Are we comfortable? Julian asked. Alina thought of the red robe. No. Julian made a note. Clear. But do not withdraw yet. He looked up. You want him at the dinner? Yes. Tonight, Adrian was scheduled to host Northbridge and the Morgan Harbor partners at a private dining room in Manhattan. He would expect Elena to appear beside him, quiet, elegant, making the room feel stable. He would expect her to protect the image he had just soiled. Elena wanted him to feel the absence before he understood the loss. Send the notice to his lawyer at 5, she said. Not before. Julian's mouth curved slightly. A precise hour. He likes dinner theater. At 10, Elena called her assistant. Nora, I need the foundation board notified that I will attend tomorrow's emergency session in person. Also, have security retrieve the blue safe from the Greenwich dressing room. Is access still available? Nora asked. It is my house. Understood. Elena paused. And Nora? Yes? Have them take only my belongings. If Miss Vale is still there, do not engage. Of course. After the call, Elena walked to the window. Below, taxis moved through morning traffic. People crossed streets under umbrellas. The city continued with brutal indifference, as cities always did. Her phone lit up. Adrian Klein. She watched it ring, then she turned it face down. Chapter 4 by noon. Adrian had called Alina 17 times. By1. He had called Julian Cross twice and been told Mr. Cross was unavailable. By2. He had stopped pretending this was marital drama and started calling it an operational issue. Sienna found him in the breakfast room, surrounded by printed documents, 2 laptops, and a legal pad covered in names. You missed lunch, she said. He did not look up, not now. She wore another of Alina's sweaters, pale gray this time, Adrian noticed. This time, it made his stomach tighten. Your security people are here, she said. His head snapped up. What security people? I assumed they were yours. He walked quickly to the foyer. 2 private security officers stood beside the front door with the household manager, Mrs. Valles. Behind them, another officer carried a sealed blue safe. Adrian's voice cut through the foyer. What the hell is going on? Mrs. Valles looked uncomfortable, but resolute. Mrs. Whitmore authorized retrieval of her personal property. This is my house. One of the officers handed him a document. Mr. Whitmore, this property is controlled by the Bellwether Residential Trust. Mrs. Whitmore is the controlling trustee. We have instructions to retrieve specified items and conduct a non-confrontational exit. Sienna came down the stairs, barefoot and pale. Adrian? The officer looked at her, then at the document. Miss Sienna Vale? Her chin lifted. Yes. You are not listed as an authorized resident. The foyer went completely still. Adrian felt blood rush to his face. Do not speak to her. The officer remained calm. We have no instruction to remove anyone today. We are only advising for the record. For the record. Adrian suddenly saw cameras in every corner. The foyer, the stairs, the hall near the bedroom. Had Elena recorded last night? Had she seen enough before walking in? Sienna seemed to have the same thought. She pulled the gray sweater tighter around herself. Are they filming us? Mrs. Valles answered before Adrian could. The house security system records common areas. Sienna's mouth parted. The officer carried the safe outside. Adrian lowered his voice. Tell Elena if she wants war, she can have it. Mrs. Valles looked at him with the first open disapproval he had ever seen on her face. Sir. I believe she already left one. Then she followed the security team out. At 5 o'clock. Adrian received the notice. It came from Julian Cross, copied to Marcus Reed, Northbridge Private Credit, and Whitmore Properties Board Secretary. Subject, Marlowe Holdings. Position on Morgan Harbor Financing. Adrian read the email once. Then again. Marlowe Holdings was withdrawing comfort from the acquisition debt structure pending a full governance review of Whitmore Properties, related party spending, asset misuse, and executive conduct concerns. Marlowe Holdings. Adrian called Marcus. Who the hell is Marlowe Holdings? Marcus did not answer immediately. Adrian, where are you? At home. Sit down. Don't tell me to sit down. Tell me who owns Marlowe Holdings. Marcus exhaled. Alana. Adrian's vision tunneled. Alana owns a holding company? Elena owns a holding company that owns 38% of Whitmore Properties. No. Yes. No, I founded this company. You founded it. You do not control as much of it as you thought. Adrian gripped the edge of the desk. How long? From the recapitalization after the London project nearly failed. The London project, 7 years ago. Before the headlines, before the wealth felt permanent, before banks lined up to feed him money. The London project had almost buried him. An anonymous investor had bought distressed debt, refinanced the project, and taken a silent equity position. Adrian remembered Elena bringing him tea at 3 in the morning while he panicked over lender calls. He remembered snapping at her to leave him alone because she could not possibly understand what was at stake. She had left the room quietly. The next day, the financing had arrived. Adrian sat down. She was the investor. Marcus's silence confirmed it. From the hallway, Sienna asked, "Is everything okay?" Adrian stared at the phone. For years, he had introduced Elena as his wife. Soft voice. Good taste. Old family, but nothing too serious. He had allowed people to underestimate her because it made him look larger. Now the board, the lenders, and every serious person in his orbit had just received proof that his quiet wife controlled the money beneath his empire. "Adrian," Marcus said. "There is more." Adrian closed his eyes. "Of course there is. Northbridge is pausing the Morgan Harbor financing." "For how long?" "Indefinitely. The private dining room in Manhattan was booked for 8. Adrian looked at his reflection in the dark window. For the first time, he understood why Elena had taken only one suitcase. She had not left with so little because she owned nothing. She had left with so little because almost everything else was already hers. Chapter 5. The Morgan Harbor dinner was supposed to be a coronation. Adrian arrived anyway. He wore a black suit, white shirt, no tie. It was a calculated look, meant to suggest confidence under pressure. The problem was his face. No tailor could hide panic once it reached the eyes. The private dining room at Leora overlooked the East River. One long table, low candles, dark wood, quiet art on the walls, and a wine list designed to flatter men who confused price with taste. Sienna insisted on coming. "If I stay away, it looks like I'm the scandal," she said in the car. Adrian looked out the window. "You are the scandal." She went silent. When they entered the room, the conversation paused. The Northbridge partners were already seated. So were 2 Morgan Harbor executives, 3 Whitmore board members, and an outside auditor Adrian had not invited. There was one empty chair beside Adrian's assigned seat. Elena's chair. Sienna saw it and smiled faintly, recovering some of her old theater. She moved toward it. Before she could sit, a waiter stepped forward. "I'm sorry, Miss Vale. That seat is reserved." Sienna froze. Adrian's head turned. "For whom?" The door opened. Elena entered in a black dress and a cream coat, her hair swept back, her face calm. Julian Cross walked beside her, carrying a leather folder. The room stood, not for Adrian, for Alana. One by one, the Northbridge partners rose. The Morgan Harbor executives followed. Even the board members stood with the awkward urgency of people recalculating power in real time. Sienna remained standing near the chair, her hand still touching the back of it. Elena looked at her fingers. Sienna removed them. "Alana," Adrian said, forcing warmth into his voice. "You came. You invited the capital," Alana said. "I came with it." No one spoke. Adrian's smile collapsed at the edges. Julian pulled out Alana's chair. Sienna stood stranded between table and wall. A waiter approached her. "Miss Vale, we have a seat prepared near the side." Near the side. Elena sat. Adrian remained standing. "This is unnecessary," he said under his breath. Elena looked up at him. "I agree. Most consequences are." The dinner began with no dinner. Northbridge's senior partner, Catherine Lowe, opened a folder. "Mr. Whitmore, due to developments disclosed this afternoon, Northbridge cannot proceed with the Morgan Harbor debt package without governance conditions." Adrian sat slowly. "This is a private marital issue." Catherine looked at Sienna, then back at Adrian. "Unauthorized residency in a trust-owned marital property, potential misuse of company-linked accounts, and undisclosed beneficial ownership exposure are not private from a financing perspective." Sienna's face flushed. "Unauthorized residency?" she said. Nobody answered her. Julian placed documents in front of each board member. "Marlowe Holdings proposes an immediate independent review of executive conduct, related party expenditures, and acquisition risk." Adrian's voice was low. Marlowe Holdings proposes? Elena lifted her water glass. Yes. You could have told me. She looked at him with quiet disbelief. You could have asked anything about my life in 9 years. That landed harder than accusation. A board member cleared his throat. Elena, perhaps we can discuss a path that preserves value. That is why I am here, she said. Adrian leaned forward. No, you are here to punish me. If I wanted punishment, Adrian, I would have let you close Morgan Harbor with unstable financing and watch it collapse under your signature. Catherine Lowe's eyes sharpened. Elena continued. The project is over-leveraged. The environmental remediation reserves are understated. The hotel operator has a termination right hidden in Appendix D. Your team knew this, or should have known. You were chasing size because Sienna convinced you the press tour would reposition you as an international luxury visionary. Sienna stiffened. I advised on brand strategy. Elena turned to her. You advised my husband to announce a marina partnership before permits cleared because it would photograph well. Sienna looked at Adrian. He did not defend her. Elena opened her folder and slid a printed email across the table. You also advised him, in writing, that a more glamorous personal narrative would help investor confidence. Your suggested language described me as emotionally withdrawn and socially mismatched with the Whitmore future. The board members looked down at the email. Sienna's face went white. Adrian whispered, Where did you get that? Your mistress copied my household email by mistake when she forwarded the seating chart for the spring gala. The silence was exquisite. Elena's voice remained even. I ignored it then because I still believed embarrassment was not worth a war. Last night, she wore my mother's earrings. That clarified my priorities. Sienna stood. I won't sit here and be attacked. Elena looked at the empty side chair. You were not asked to sit here at all. Sienna's mouth trembled. She grabbed her clutch and walked out, heels sharp against the floor. Adrian half rose. Elena's eyes moved to him. Choose carefully. He stopped. The door closed behind Sienna. For the first time since Elena had known him, Adrian looked truly trapped. Not by her, by the shape of his own choices. Chapter 6. The board voted at midnight. Adrian was not removed. That would have been too easy. He was placed under an executive oversight committee chaired by Elena as representative of Marlowe Holdings. All acquisition authority was suspended. All discretionary spending above $50,000 required dual approval. All brand consulting contracts were frozen pending review. Sienna's contract was terminated before dessert would have been served. Adrian signed the consent minutes with a hand so tense the pen nearly tore the page. When the room emptied, only he and Elena remained. The restaurant staff had cleared the table except for 2 untouched glasses of water. Adrian looked at her across the linen. Was any of it real? Elena folded her hands. Our marriage? Your support. She almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. That is a strange thing to question after discovering how much of it there was. You hid everything. I hid my family money because you once told me you wanted to build something no one could say was handed to you. His face changed. He remembered. Of course he remembered. Men often remembered noble sentences after someone else paid the cost of honoring them. I did build something, he said. Yes, you did. And when it almost collapsed, I helped without making you kneel for it. You should have told me. Would you have thanked me? He looked away. There it was, not enough truth to say no. Not enough courage to say yes. Elena stood. I am filing for legal separation tomorrow. Julian will send terms. Adrian rose too quickly. Elena. Do not. I made a mistake. You moved a woman into my bedroom. I was confused. You were comfortable. He flinched. I will end it with Sienna. Elena looked at him with something like pity, and pity from her was unbearable. You still think the affair is the deepest cut, isn't it? No. The deepest cut was that when I walked into my own home, you were annoyed I had interrupted your convenience. Adrian had no answer. She picked up her coat. You never feared losing me because you believed I had nowhere meaningful to go. That's not true. Then why did you ask where I would go with one suitcase? The memory struck him, his own voice, the cold little laugh, the confidence that her world began and ended at his gate. Alina moved toward the door. Where are you staying? He asked. She stopped. Somewhere you cannot enter by habit. He followed her into the hallway. Alina, wait. The elevator doors opened. Julian Cross stood inside, as if summoned by timing alone. Adrian let out a bitter breath. Does he go everywhere with you now? Alina stepped into the elevator. No, only where I expect men to mistake regret for negotiation. The doors closed. Adrian stood in the hallway long after she was gone. His phone buzzed. Sienna. He did not answer. The next morning, the story broke. Not the affair. Affairs were common in his world, almost boring unless there was video. The story was ownership. Quiet wife behind Whitmore fortune steps into control amid governance crisis. The article did not mention Sienna by name in the headline. That made it worse for her. She had wanted to be the woman worth risking everything for. Instead, she became the unnamed consultant in paragraph 7.by noon. 3 luxury brands paused campaigns tied to Whitmore Properties.by 3. Morgan Harbor's hotel operator invoked a review clause.by 5. Adrian's mother called. Patricia Whitmore had perfected disappointment into a voice. What have you done? She asked. Adrian sat in his office with the blinds half closed. Mother, not now. I warned you about that girl. For one wild second, Adrian thought she meant Sienna. Then Patricia continued. Elena always had too much stillness. Still women keep ledgers. Adrian closed his eyes. You knew? That she had money? Of course. Not details. Women like Elena don't show details to people who can't hold them. And you never told me? Patricia's laugh was dry. I assumed you were smart enough to be kind to a woman you didn't fully understand. The line went dead. Adrian stared at the phone. Everyone, it seemed, had known something, except the man who slept beside her. Chapter 7 Sienna did not disappear gracefully. She first tried outrage. She posted a photograph of herself in black sunglasses outside a boutique hotel, with a caption about surviving lies and choosing herself. The comments were sympathetic for 11 minutes. Then someone leaked the gala seating chart. Then the email about making Adrian's personal narrative more glamorous. Then a still image from the Whitmore foyer security footage appeared online. No bedroom, no vulgarity. Just Sienna standing on the staircase in Elena's gray sweater while security removed the blue safe. The internet did not need more .by evening. Her feminine energy brand deals evaporated. Sienna called Adrian 14 times. He answered the 15th. You need to fix this, she said before he spoke. He sat in the dark study of the Greenwich estate, though it no longer felt like his study. Fix what? My name is everywhere. Your name was barely mentioned. People know. Yes, he said. People tend to notice when you wear another woman's earrings in another woman's house. There was a sharp silence. Do not put this all on me, Sienna said. You told me Elena was cold. You told me she didn't care. You told me the house was yours. I thought it was. That's your defense? Adrian looked at the empty wall where Elena had removed a painting that morning. He had not known the painting was hers either. I don't have a defense. Then give me a statement. Say I was misled. Were you? Adrian, you knew I was married. You said legally, emotionally, practically, it was over. That was convenient for both of us. Sienna's voice turned icy. Careful. I have messages. He almost smiled. 3 days ago, that threat would have scared him. Now he was surrounded by lawyers, auditors, lenders, board members, and the consequences of every message he had ever sent. One more flame could not impress a burning house. So does Elena, he said. Sienna hung up. The next day, Julian Cross filed Elena's separation petition, .it, was elegant and devastating. No melodrama. No public accusations beyond what the legal process required. It requested exclusive control of the Greenwich estate, preservation of marital communications, forensic accounting of personal and company expenditures connected to Sienna Vale, and temporary governance safeguards regarding Whitmore properties. Adrian's lawyer read it twice and said, "She is not trying to ruin you personally." Adrian looked up. "This is not ruin. No, this is containment. If she wanted ruin, she would have filed differently." That should have comforted him. It did not. There is a special terror in realizing someone has enough power to destroy you and enough discipline to be precise instead. 2 weeks later, Adrian was ordered to vacate the Greenwich estate pending trust review. He packed 6 suitcases. The irony was not lost on him. Alina had left with 1. He left with 6, and still felt as if everything important remained behind. Is. He walked through the foyer for the last time. He saw the spot where she had stood that night. Camel coat. Black suitcase, eyes clear despite the wound. He had thought she was retreating. She had been giving him a final chance to understand absence. Outside, a driver waited, not the estate driver. That staff now reported to Alina. Adrian got into a hired black car and watched the gates open. For years, he had believed the estate proved he had arrived. Now it proved only that he had never known where he was standing. Chapter 8. The final board meeting took place in the glass conference room of Whitmore Properties. Adrian arrived early. Old instinct. Arrive first. Control the room. Let people enter around your presence. But the room was no longer arranged for him. Alina sat at the head of the table, not because she had stolen the chair, because the board secretary had placed her name there. She wore a charcoal suit and a pearl brooch shaped like a small branch. Her hair was pinned back. A tablet rested before her, along with a thin stack of documents. No theatrics, no visible anger. That calm unsettled Adrian more than tears would have. The board members greeted her first. Adrian took the seat to her right because it was the only one left. Across from them sat Catherine Lowe from Northbridge, 2 independent auditors, Marcus Reed, Julian Cross, and an outside restructuring advisor. Alina opened the meeting. "We have 3 decisions today. Morgan Harbor, executive authority, and asset recovery." Adrian leaned back. Asset recovery sounds dramatic. She looked at him. "It is accounting. Drama is what created the need for it." Marcus lowered his eyes. The first decision came quickly. Morgan Harbor would be renegotiated at a smaller scale with environmental reserves corrected, speculative hotel branding removed, and leverage reduced. Marlowe Holdings would support the revised project only if Adrian's unilateral authority remained suspended. The board approved. The second decision followed. Adrian would remain founder and public development chair for 6 months, with no spending authority and no acquisition authority. Operational leadership would move to a new interim CEO chosen by the Oversight Committee. Adrian's jaw tightened. "So I become a mascot." Elena's voice was even. "You become supervised." He looked around the table. No one defended him. The vote passed. The third decision hurt the most. Asset recovery. The auditors presented personal expenditures improperly routed through consulting, brand development, travel, and event accounts. Jewelry, hotels, styling fees, private flights with Sienna. A rental villa in St. Bart's listed as investor hospitality despite no investors attending. Adrian stared at the documents. Each line looked small until the total appeared. $3.7 million. Alina did not gloat. That made it worse. "You will reimburse the company," she said. "I don't have that liquidity right now." "Then you will pledge personal assets." His laugh was hollow. "Which ones?" "You seem to own the meaningful ones." For the first time, anger flickered across her face. "I own the ones I paid for." The room went silent. Adrian looked down. She was right. That was the part he could not bear. Julian slid a settlement framework across the table. Mrs. Whitmore is prepared to resolve the separation without seeking punitive personal damages if Mr. Whitmore agrees to the governance settlement, reimbursement schedule, public non-disparagement, and transfer of his remaining voting proxies to an independent trust for 3 years. Adrian read the first page. .it was not merciful. .it was survivable. He understood the difference now. And if I refuse? Julian folded his hands. Then we proceed through discovery. Every person in the room understood what that meant. Emails, messages, receipts, cameras, board testimony, Sienna, the robe, the earrings, the hotel rooms, the hidden clauses, the whole small, ugly machinery of ego exposed under fluorescent light. Adrian looked at Elena. Is this what you want? She held his gaze. What I wanted was a husband who did not make me need this meeting. No one moved. Adrian picked up the pen. His hand hovered over the signature line. For 1 second, pride tried to rise. Then he remembered her leaving with one suitcase. The sound of the wheels on marble, the door closing. The first moment of panic, though he had not known its name yet. He signed. Chapter 9. 6 months later, the Greenwich estate opened its gates for the Marlowe Foundation's first residency program. Elena did not sell the house. People advised her to. Friends, lawyers, even Julian in his careful way. Too many memories, they said. Too much scandal. Too much of him in the walls. But Elena had walked through the rooms after Adrian left and realized the house had never betrayed her. People had. The house was stone, wood, glass, and light. It had held the truth without choosing sides. It had recorded what happened in the foyer. It had kept her mother's earrings in the safe after security retrieved them. It had waited. So she changed its purpose. The master bedroom became a library and legal resource center. The dining room became a seminar space for women learning financial literacy after divorce, widowhood, coercive control, or years of being told money was not their concern. The East Wing became temporary housing for women leaving marriages where reputation had been used like a locked door. On the first morning of the program, Elena stood in the foyer watching 8 women arrive with suitcases. Some brought 3, some brought 1. One young woman brought only a backpack and a folder of legal papers held so tightly the edges bent. Elena greeted each of them herself. Not as a donor.s, someone who knew the sound of wheels on marble. Nora approached near noon with a tablet. The press is asking for a statement about Mr. Whitmore's interview. Elena's expression did not change. Adrian had given his first interview since the board settlement. He looked older on camera. Less polished, more careful. He admitted to failures of judgment, though not every failure of character. He said Elena had been essential to the company, and that he regretted taking her support for granted. He did not mention Sienna. Sienna had moved to Miami and rebranded herself as a wellness strategist. Her following was smaller now. Her comments were closed. No statement, Elena said. Nora nodded. Understood. Elena watched the woman with the backpack pause beneath the chandelier. She looked up, overwhelmed by the height of the ceiling. Elena walked toward her. First time here? The woman nodded. I almost didn't come. Why? I thought I didn't have enough to bring. Elena looked at the backpack. You brought yourself. The woman's eyes filled. Elena smiled gently. That is the part we can work with. That evening, after the guests settled into their rooms, Elena walked upstairs alone. She stopped outside the room that had once been hers. The door was open. Shelves now lined the walls. The red robe was long gone. The bed was gone. The space smelled of new paper, polished wood, and roses from the garden. On one shelf sat a framed photograph of Elena's mother wearing the diamond earrings. Elena touched the frame. I got them back, she whispered. The room held the words softly. She walked to the window. Outside, the lawn glowed under early summer light. Women sat in small groups near the fountain, talking, laughing carefully at first, then more freely. Suitcases stood near the entrance, waiting to be carried upstairs. Alina thought of the night she left. One suitcase. One sentence. Until this house learns who owns it. She had meant the deed then. The trust. The legal structure Adrian had ignored. Now she understood something deeper. Ownership was not only paper.it. Was the moment a woman stopped asking permission to leave pain.it. Was the moment she stopped mistaking endurance for love.it. Was the moment she could stand in the doorway of a room that had once humiliated her and choose what it would become next. Alina did not feel victorious every day. Some mornings, grief still arrived before coffee. Some songs still brought back the man Adrian had been before wealth hardened him. Some wounds did not close just because the law agreed with you. But healing was not the absence of memory. Healing was memory no longer holding the keys. Downstairs, someone laughed. A bright, surprised sound, as if joy had entered without knocking. Alina looked once more at the room. Then she turned off the light and walked down the stairs to the bottom. She paused in the foyer, where Adrian had asked where she could possibly go with one suitcase. She smiled, not bitterly, but with the quiet astonishment of a woman who had answered the question with her life. She had gone back to herself, and this time, she was staying. Subscribe for more stories of quiet strength, hidden truth, and the moment underestimated women take back their lives.